My next guest was a data center technician at Facebook before being fired for leaking vaccine hesitancy censorship documents to Project Veritas. Here to tell his story and explain Facebook's efforts to censor us all is Morgan Kahmann. Morgan, welcome.
Thank you.
Bit of a change of pace for you.
A little bit, yeah.
Right? I'm like, this must be so new to you, doing media, making the rounds, getting requested to speak. How has that transition been for you, first off?
It's like a whirlwind, really.
Yeah.
I'm glad I have, my wife there to support me and, my kids and stuff, so that it'll make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard being away from, taking all the flights and stuff, but I think that it's for a good cause, so
right.
I'm willing to go forward.
So I kind of want to start at the beginning so that we can better understand your story. So first and foremost, how long were you working with Facebook for?
I started in July 2020.
July 2020, and you signed on as a data technician. Can you explain for those of us that are not so good at understanding these terms what exactly a data technician is and does?
Yeah, so I worked for a third-party company which provided labor for Facebook, and we would go into the data center, basically, which is where they have servers that manage all the services that Facebook provides. And if the engineers needed like hardware changed out or changes and fixes made on these servers, I was the one who went in there and took their support ticket and went in there and did these changes.
Okay, so you're taking the support ticket, you're making these changes to the servers. When is the first time that you realized that something's a bit weird at Facebook?
When a coworker of mine brought me these documents, and the first set of documents, and he's like, "Hey, have you seen this before?"
So somebody else that works at Facebook gets documents and comes over to you and says, "Have you seen this before?" And what was in those documents?
Yeah, these are actually posted on an internal social media platform called Workplace, where everyone could see them that worked there. And basically, these documents were about vaccine hesitancy comment demotion. And it was basically a summarizing document that broke down how Facebook demotes comments and censors comments based on their level of vaccine hesitancy, is what they call it.
Okay, so I'm going to slow this down because I want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So there is something called Workplace at Facebook, which all of the employees have access to, which is essentially a social media platform for Facebook employees. You think they'd use Facebook, but hey, Workplace, right?
Really.
And so they're able to communicate, and these documents are basically saying to all of the employees or just one group of the employees that this is how.
So this was posted in an FYI group for the region where I work.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody who works in that region that was part of the FYI group, which is probably, 700 to 1,000 people, had access to the document.
Okay. And it says, this is how we are going to demote comments or information, or just comments on Facebook?
So comments, it was the primary focus, but they're looking to expand it to all content.
All content.
All content.
And it's going to be a demotion based on whether or not it causes vaccine hesitancy.
Yeah, so basically they have an algorithm that will look at the content. In this case, it would be like a comment, and it'll score the comment with a VH score, vaccine hesitancy. And then once that score has been established, then the algorithm will determine whether, so it's like tier 0 and tier 5. Tier 5 would be vaccine positive. Tier 0 would be vaccine negative. 4 would be like neutral.
Okay.
Anything between 3, 2, and 1 and 0, those are all going to be demoted or position changed is what they call it.
Now, what is a position change? Just a demotion?
Yeah, so basically if you're looking at Facebook, you'll see like popular comments on a comment thread. They'll have a preview at the top. And even if there's like 20 more comments, you won't see those. You'll just see the most popular one or something to that effect. And basically they'll make it so the post that has a vaccine hesitancy score that's too vaccine hesitant will actually not be able to be recommended to people. It's not going to be shown in the very top comments. Even if it's the most popular comment, it'll be moved with a position change to the bottom.
Right.
So basically, they're trying to create an illusion here that everyone's getting their vaccine, the vaccine is good for you, and no one's complaining about it, even if they have bad side effects, which is not the case.
So that is really interesting. So I'm not sure if you follow my perpetual drama with Facebook. I'm suing the fact checkers, but I had an incident happen. I kind of want to recap it also, for the audiences at home. But at the exact same time that you kind of got exposed as the whistleblower, I had a very interesting situation happen where I posted something on Facebook that was 100% true. The facts were taken from the CDC, the NIH website, and the FDA website. The first fact was that the vaccines are non-FDA approved, which is very important. People should know that. If they're not FDA approved, they have been given temporary emergency authorization because there's a pandemic, but they are not actually approved.
Yeah.
And I posted that along with just the irony that you can go to the CDC website and it recommends and says that there's no issues if you're pregnant to get the vaccine. And yet I was just pregnant. I know that your wife at home is pregnant. The list that they give you when you're pregnant of things that are a no-go from the CDC is you can't have seafood, you can't have unpasteurized juice. And I just said,
cold cut
sandwiches. You can't have deli meat. And they say, we do not recommend any amount of alcohol. So that means if you have one sip of alcohol, it could be damaging to your baby. And so I posted these facts and just said like, interesting. And Facebook completely removed the content. Yeah. And when my lawyers got in touch with them and when I emailed them, they wrote back and said, nothing in this post was untrue, right? But we now have a policy that if you tell the truth and it creates vaccine hesitancy, then it can be removed and considered harmful content. So this is right in line with what you're talking about.
Yes.
Facebook does receive a ton of money from Big Pharma. And that is it annually, tons and tons, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so it's interesting that suddenly they are now just kind of working as advertisers for Big Pharma.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous.
Yeah. And they even outline in this document verbatim, they say that they are going to be looking at whether the events are actually true or not. And it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It can still be eligible for a vaccine hesitancy score.
Right. And what's interesting is that even when they responded to me, they said it's not a matter of if you're telling the truth, it's how you tell the truth. So if you say that the FDA it's a non-FDA approved vaccine, you then should say, but it's been approved for emergency authorization, everyone should get it. And then they'll let you keep the post. So they're literally trying to curate an environment that is forcing people to think that the vaccines are totally fine, that they should not think twice about it, and that everyone's getting it, and so should you. So you have a family.
Yes.
What do you have? 1 kid, 2 kids?
Yeah, so my wife is 7 months pregnant, and then I have a 2-year-old.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
On the pending birth. And as a father, right? Obviously, I'm a new mother. I have a 4-month-old at home. And there's so much information. You're just trying to make the best decisions that you can health-wise for your child. You know how it is there. You should get this. You shouldn't get that. There's tons of, debate. And part of being a parent is to seriously consider the debate, to weigh the benefits against the risks and to make a good decision.
For your children.
For your children. How does that make you feel as a father to know that now that debate is being essentially curated by Facebook, who has a financial motive?
I have to do something. I have to do something about it because this is not a world I want my kids to live in. But they're like, well, why do we have to wear masks? And why do we have to do this? And what am I going to say? I'm not going to lie to them. I'm going to tell them exactly how I feel. And I think, if that's the case with my kids, that's because that's how it should be with everybody.
Right.
Say how you feel and, stand up for your morals and values.
So what was the conversation you were having at home with your wife? You went home, obviously, and what happened?
I was telling her all about it. I've talked to her about it for like 5 days, just every day. Like, look at this, like showing her these documents. And I was like, I have to do something about this. I have to bring this to Project Veritas. Like, she's like, okay, like just be careful. We want everything to be stable. And, that's, she's preserving the household and she's trying to make sure that, things aren't too unstable and everything. And I told her, I said, I promise it's going to be fine because I know this is the right thing to do. So please just trust me on this. And she did.
I love that you say that it was the right thing to do because, and I know that a lot of people go, well, this isn't the hill to die on, right? Like you have a job, you have a kid on the way, you have stable income, like don't mess this up, keep it together. And yet usually on the other side of doing the right thing is that there's a big embrace. And I think you got somebody put together a fundraiser for you.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a courageous act to do this, and you got fired.
Yes.
But a ton of people now all around the world want to support you because the American people know that something is very wrong and very dangerous about the way social media is censoring the truth, demoting the truth, however it is that you want to say that. And do you think that coming forward with your story will lead to more people recognizing that you might feel like you're just a data technician, right? But if you do something that's actually morally right, maybe not financially secure in that moment, that there can be good consequences on the opposite side of that.
Yeah. And one of the big points I like to tell people is, and one thing that I told James O'Keefe is that even if I had come to Project Veritas and nothing ever came of it, I never got a fundraiser, never got any publicity, and they were just like, whatever, at least I could live with myself and say, I tried to tell somebody, like I showed somebody this. And I think that is the most important thing. And doing things like this can bring out more whistleblowers because if they show their support, not just in my community, not just in the United States. I mean, people from Switzerland are donating to this fundraiser. It's mind-blowing.
Right.
And it's a worldwide cause. We have natural laws like be a moral person, tell the truth, stand up for the weak, stuff like that. And I think that people recognize that immediately. And
that is so
that's
true.
one of the reasons why there's so much support. And I think that when they see that I'm getting so much support, and my life wasn't destroyed for more than, like a few days, then they can see, well, maybe I could do this too. And maybe if there's more of us, then they can't take us all down. You know what I mean?
Right. And you're
So,
absolutely right. And I hope that people are guided by a moral code. And I learned the same thing when I said, I'm going to stand up to the fact checkers
yep.
and I'm going to sue them. People instantly were saying, why can't you accept donations from Australia, from this country? Because all around the world, the majority of people realize that there is something very, very wrong happening right now. That a few people have amassed a lot of power and they are controlling the flow of information and they are willing to put our kids at risk, our health at risk, so long as, their checks clear. And I'm not, against people getting the vaccines. I think people should always make the best decisions for themselves. But when they're not being told both sides of a debate, when doctors are being censored and when comments are intentionally being demoted, that's not an honest conversation.
Yeah, it's persecution.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, you don't want to get a vaccine? Well, you're automatically in this category.
Right. Absolutely.
That's not how we work in the United States. Shouldn't be how we work in the United States.
Or anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So what is next for you?
I really don't know, but one thing for sure is I'm definitely going to secure a house for my family. I've gotten a couple of job offers already, believe it or not, and I'm looking at a lot of other not just offers, but I'm looking at other things that I'm actually going down my own path to try to find somewhere to work. So
yeah,
that's what I'm thinking about right now, just making sure that my family's stable and I have a good income before I just look at anything else.
I love that. And I'll tell you, my husband's the CEO of Parlor. So if you give me your resume, I will put in a good word, word for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely will do. And I ask you a fun question, I guess, and I just want your take on it because obviously what's also been in the news is that Facebook has come out and said that they're extending, the Trump ban pretty much indefinitely. They say maybe 2 years, but also maybe indefinitely because he incited violence. Factually speaking, he did not put a single sentence on Facebook that incited violence. What was your take on that?
I think it's typical behavior from Facebook. And, I can almost predict that that's what they were going to do, especially considering that when I came out with my story, they basically came out and said, well, we just put this on our company blog and our public policy, even though it's not there. And they have this ambiguous language to make it seem like they're doing something that they're not. Yeah, it totally makes sense to me. And I think that this the kind of thing is going to keep happening with places like Facebook, Twitter, Google especially. And I think that the only thing we can do is to not use the services because we are the product and we are allowing them to do this.
Amen.
You have the power yourself to say, nope, I'm logging out and I'm deleting my profile.
I think that you are absolutely right about that. And I guess, the last question that I will ask you is, are you in communication with any of the former employees at Facebook? I mean, what was the sentiment even when you were there? Does everybody feel like this is wrong, or are these people activists and they're like, yes, this is right, censor anything against the vaccines?
Yeah, so if you looked on not public facing, but like crowd facing things like Workplace, the social platform where other employees could see what people were saying, there was a lot of comments that were like, this is so exciting, you guys are developing this technology and we can help people be safer. People think they're doing the right thing, but they're not. They think that the safest thing is the right thing, and that's not always true. In fact, it's rarely true. And not only that, but when you were around the water cooler, it was completely the opposite. It was when in person, it was like, man, can you believe that they're doing this? This is ridiculous. Like, what's going to happen next? Nobody liked it. I didn't know a single person who I talked to in person who was in favor of it.
Yeah, well, I hope a few more of them come forward. And I will just say, I think on behalf of everyone, the safe thing and the right thing is always the true thing. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you.